Welcome to Tech Talk with R&E Automated. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Join us as we dive into the world of automation and manufacturing, bringing you expert insights from industrial professionals and business leaders. Whether you're a business owner, engineer, or simply passionate about technology, this podcast is your go-to source for the latest trends and innovations in the field. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tech Talk with R&E Automated. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Today here I have Josh Diaz with Wauseon Machine. Welcome, Josh.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Jordan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, man. It's always good to get a buddy on the podcast to go over, say what we got here. What we're going to talk about is communication and how Josh likes to be the one-stop shop and a solution provider for his customers. So tell us more about that, Josh, and tell us more about Wauseon Machine and what they're doing down here in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate the opportunity to get the word out, and really love what you're doing here with the media project. So excited to support a friend and also an impressive guy in the industry. I respect all the work that you're doing and the great work you've done as a controls engineer in your background, and then now in your role supporting the field service group for R&E. But all that being said, yeah, I'm a business development manager with Wauseon Machine, which is a group of companies and a group of historically family companies. So the main business was Wauseon Machine and Manufacturing in Northwest Ohio. The namesake is the town that it was founded in. So Wauseon, Ohio is a physical place on the map. So those close to the Toledo general metro area would maybe be familiar with that. But for the rest of us, Northwest Ohio, about 90 minutes from Detroit, and 40 years of history as a family business in the manufacturing space. Started as a precision machine shop. It evolved and added capabilities in the tube forming technologies, which is a unique niche application, and then and evolved further to encompass robotic automation projects and system integration and machine building capabilities, which is now the largest business group and the one that I work with and work for. So. And in addition to that family business, so they at some point along the line, maybe about a decade ago, got support from a financial institution to grow and to continue to expand their capabilities to service all of the industrial customers that you and I service on a regular basis. And part of that growth strategy was an M&A strategy. And so a couple of years ago, they acquired a business unit down here in Greenville, South Carolina, that goes by the name of McAllister Design and Automation. So very similar capabilities and sort of approach to market as the robotic automation group in Wauseon, Ohio. So that's been a really complementary acquisition, and being now on the inside of the house and seeing the collaboration and sort of the added capabilities, and now you're taking two great businesses and combining them and getting what I foresee to be a big powerhouse in the automation industry to accomplish the stated goal, which is to solve tomorrow's manufacturing problems, right? So to stay on the cutting edge on the technology side and on the business side of what we do, right? So the execution, being able to filter and execute projects well. So that's like kind of the background of the nature of the companies and the space that we're in. But then, the word that you hit on is as solutions providers, what I see myself is a node in an ecosystem, right? So we're all in this big ecosystem trying to help American industry do more with less, produce faster, better quality, safer, for the customers that we deal with. So there's all of these different initiatives and efforts that our customers deal with, and so we're one node in that ecosystem where we can design systems, we can integrate robots, and we can build custom machines and custom solutions. But that that involves like a big team approach, right? So we have to collaborate with technology partners. We have to, be able to refer out other services. So the hat that I wear is just when we approach a customer, what are the problems you're having? And regularly, I'm there to talk about a capital equipment project. They're thinking, hey, we want to put a robot over here in this corner. And that's great. I want to know what their requirements are, what the specifications of that project are, get as many details as I can. But I also want to know, and I asked this to a plant manager I did a tour with recently. I said, okay, great, we've talked about that. What else is important to you? What else is on your mind? What else keeps you up at night? And then come to find out it was, hey, safety. Safety is a big deal. Okay, well, sure, and custom systems can solve that one problem, um, but but maybe there's other resources we can tap into to help add capabilities to your safety toolkit, so to speak, and that may be even outside the four walls of our own business. So that's a very long-winded response to your introductory question, but that's how I'm thinking about the companies and how I'm thinking about my role within the ecosystem.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. It's you're serving multiple industries, and you're looking to be like a key benefit for all these industries that you're implementing automation processes for. So how does your team is say, when implementing automation, how does that I guess, help on the day-to-day basis for these manufacturing companies? And I mean, when you're talking to these companies to say you're communicating with them, how is you guys implementing automation for them helping them? I guess
Yeah,
is what I'm coming at.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot there, a lot of different angles maybe to look at that discussion. But one thing that comes to mind is a lot of our customer base are very smart on this topic, right? So um, it's not as if we're coming to an Eskimo and we're saying, "Hey, here's how you build a fire." We're not.
Mhm.
Often there's a range, there's a bell curve, but there's many customers that we're dealing with that are saying, hey, we have an injury and we need a bandage for it, right? They know where the pain points are at. They know what they're, and they may even have a well-defined problem set, and even in some cases they may know the solution, right? They Many of these people are very experienced, very knowledgeable, and also very knowledgeable in their own process, right? So whereas our group of companies come in as the automation experts, they are the experts at their specific product, widget, process. So oftentimes they can bring us right to the problem and even point out the solution. But oftentimes what you find out is maybe that they don't have the resources to accomplish it in house, right? So, because again, all of these companies are tapped for resources, they're tapped for talent, they're fighting over budgets to get their project approved versus a different project approved. So ultimately, it's about coming up alongside that customer and going, what's your vision here? How do what's the pain point, but then what do you think is the solution? Because you may already be 90% of the way there, and you just need a service provider that's gonna color in the rest of the lines, um, and get you to that final solution. That being said, what is automation solving? I mean, it's a wide range of topics. What typically gets hit on first is the idea of relieving headcount, which is a little bit of a funny discussion because a lot of the ROI is around, hey, we have this many people doing this process today. If we were to implement some automation system, we would no longer have to, continue sustaining payroll, that head count for this given process. But it's a funny
Increasing
type.
efficiency. I said improving efficiencies and like reducing costs and like enhancing like the productivity of their plant, basically.
Exact enhancing productivity is absolutely right, and I say it's a little bit of a funny discussion because what we find is people are so tapped for manpower that it's not as if we show up with a machine and land it on your facility, and then those 20 people that were doing that task were like, "All right, here's your severance package," and they're heading home. No, they're so tapped for talent that the minute we're able to take over that task, those people are able to move to a higher value task within the plant, right? Or you produce more with less. So where you might have one operator that produces 10 widgets an hour, you give them a little bit of automation, you give them a robotic cell, or they're just feeding parts to a machine. They may be producing thousands of parts an hour. So again, I like to think of it as leverage. You're just giving them a much longer stick to move a much longer lever to move the weight as opposed to trying to move it by hand, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense to say, and it's kinda like, it's kinda like what I'm leading up to here is, you're helping them overcome their challenges and obstacles, but they already know their problems. They say in their plans, right? So they're bringing their problems to you, and then you're solving those. They say for them. But I guess what another question would be is what challenges and obstacles do you guys experience? To say with trying to help solve theirs, and are you like that middleman is saying the communication for them, and trying to help? Hey, say like let's work on this together to solve your problem, but they say you bring in the expert that the talent that they need. Is that kind of what your role is say within Wauseon there?
Yeah, that's exactly it. As the business development point of contact, I'm the interface between the customer and between our company. And there's different flavors of responsibilities that sometimes include a little bit of marketing. I need to get out in front of new customers to open up new discussions. A little bit of project management to take an immature project and develop it into a large a mature enough project that we say, okay, this thing is ready to kick off and execute. And then the service, customer service that goes along with that. But yeah, that we find ourselves as business development people smack dab in the middle between the customer and uncovering what are their needs, and then also, yeah, my internal team to find out what are their needs. What requirements do they have to execute a successful project. So the trail you were going down made me think of is the process friendly to automation, right?
Yeah.
Is their part within a certain repeatable tolerance so that if we build a system around that part by automation, it goes to the same place every time, and that part is going to be in the same place every time. And if it's not, just like you said, we may be presenting that to them and saying, hey, this system will work, but this part we're getting a lot of variation, or you're getting material from different suppliers, and so the one supplier we're getting great quality from, the other supplier we're not getting uh, as good quality
Yes.
from,
Yeah.
and so then that's where yes we're going to them, and they maybe have to go upstream of us a little bit, clean up a couple things, and now their product is ready for that automation, and it also goes to just to that to tie a bow on the question of what is automation solving. It definitely starts with relieving the pressure of headcount, right? So we have so many people consumed by this task. If we had a few robots or an automated system here, uh, we wouldn't need as many people dedicated to that task. But it's safety and ergonomics. So what we find is there's still a lot of industries that are in a position where you've got people lifting heavy objects, and it's not a great thing to admit or highlight, but there's situations where people are maybe in an unsafe way handling objects, or maybe they're not exceeding a weight limit, but it's close, or it's just on the underside of a heavy object, but they're handling it all day long. You throw a robot in there, now you're avoiding any safety concerns or issues. And then there's the quality aspect, and maybe a lot of other things we could get into, but those are some of the big highlights. Ergonomics and safety is definitely a big one.
Yeah, yeah. Safety is always important. They say we've had this conversation before where hey, it's always good to have extra safety, especially around automation. So that's always good, especially in a plant as well, right? You don't want anybody getting hurt or anything happening. So it's always good, to have that I guess safety implemented say beforehand before anything happens. So do you have like any success stories to say that you would like to share that hey, say there's a great kind of like a general example of hey, this is what we did for a customer that or even it doesn't have to be in super detailed, but they say, hey, we did solve this problem. They say, and I helped with the communication of this. They say to complete their process to make sure that hey, they were done, that it was done correctly in a safe manner. Do you have anything like that to say that you thought you could think of that off the top of your head that
Ye
you might want to share?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because right in this moment, I'm thinking the capital equipment world, it moves at its own pace, right?
Yes,
So
it does.
uh, so to go through, say, a discovery phase with a customer, from the moment they ever got introduced to Wauseon Machine, and then to go through the life cycle of we've delivered a system, and then we're doing ongoing support, and supporting a piece of equipment that we've built for those folks. You're talking months, quarters, years that life cycle occurs. So,
You build a
right in this,
relationship with them for sure. Say with
yeah,
communicating
yeah,
with them every day.
yeah,
that's being
absolutely,
a business development manager.
yeah, absolutely, and and,
Definitely
and
build that
that's where
relationship, which is good.
Totally, and that's where, our operations people are often, the way they talk about it, and I love it, is, "Hey, we're looking for partnerships," right? We're a custom, solutions provider, and so, oftentimes, we're stepping a little bit into the unknown, and so we wanna be doing that alongside, a partner in our customer that understands that and is walking alongside of us, and it's a collaborative approach. So, just in the way that you asked, are there any that wins worth sharing? And so to take that whole life cycle and bring it down into like day-to-day wins, they're a lot smaller. And to keep me motivated and excited about each day and each win, I like to count the small wins. So something even as simple as navigating a procurement process, right? So say we have a customer where we have gotten to a final solution technically with them, right? So our technical teams have aligned. This is the system we want built, and all systems are a go. Uh, all of these big corporations, big industrial companies that we deal with, can have complex procurement processes, right? So then that's for me as the just like you said, the middleman between both parties to help navigate that, and that's grabbing um, the procurement people from the customer side, the executives from my side, and continue to bring them in on conversations and say, hey, let's get this administrative process out of the way so that we can get to the fun part. We can get to the part that we all want, which is to release this project into our engineering teams and then get off to the races. So that's like less of an exciting
Yeah. Oh, no, it's still
that's not.
good. It's still good to know.
Yeah,
Some
and
people don't
well,
understand that, right?
yeah, and that's not, again, for me in a position to recount a huge engineering win to say, oh, we had a customer that, and we have many of those. If you look back at our portfolio, and if you look back at a lot of our media content, online content, our YouTube pages and website, and there are those visuals of, you know, palletizing applications, vision applications, assembly processes, systems we built for people. And so, yeah, every single one of those is a customer that was maybe in just a few, couple of positions, which is they had humans hand doing that process or hand inspecting that process, whatever it was, or they were getting ready to launch a new project and enabled to do it. In order to do it profitably, they needed to scope in a piece of capital equipment from the start, and so either way, each one of those is a win to say, hey, we solved the problem. We either helped relieve that pressure of headcount, or we allowed this company to launch that new product line with our piece of capital equipment. But then it's the little wings along the way to say, customers are looking to know, is this even possible? And we can put technology in front of them and say, your application is very possible. Let's keep driving down that conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And for our listeners, obviously, say we're talking automation and machinery. Say Josh has said capital equipment a few times. To say I want to clarify that that is to say automation and machinery. Some people might not understand what that was, but I wanted to make sure that hey, if you don't know, that is what that is. No, that's great stuff, Josh. To say, I mean, I love the idea of being obviously being in the sales side. It's making or gaining a from the customer side, I say to the executive side, I say with procurement to getting executives to bring them together. That is a great example of, hey, that is what we do in the daily task. Is say to simplify it, and they say those are big wins. They say in our book sometimes they say to hey, that's a step further in the process of getting to build the automation. They say it's to actually watch the machinery run to see it cross the finish line. And then, hey, once it's on their floor and it's running consistently, everybody's happy. We have a happy customer at the end. No, that's great. Yeah. Say, do you have anything else to say that you would like to add to that, or is that kind of what you're thinking? Is say overall?
Yeah, I would say, just other highlights to it is, again, I think of the projects that are sitting on our floor right now, right? These are, we have a couple of projects that are getting just about ready to launch. And, each one of those is solving a customer's problem. In one case, when you go to the customer's facility right now, you have manual operators doing couple dozen people in a room to do this process. The minute our piece of automation and robotic solution shows up to their facility, now those people can move on to higher value tasks within the facility. And again, countless examples. And you look back in the portfolio, and if you were to do a driving tour of our customer base, if you were to go into those facilities, and you would see equipment that's been there for 10 plus years, robots that were programmed by controls engineers that still work in our company. And the customers are very happy with them, right? They say, without getting into too much details about the specific applications or the specific, customer profiles, you know, we, what I've seen is positive reviews to where they've said, "Hey, if McAllister or Wauseon is coming here, we've had this piece of equipment. It still runs good to today. It's reliable. It's increased their, in some cases, increased their throughput. They can get more parts through, or in other cases, it's increased safety because now we don't have to have operators getting close to dangerous parts or big other dangerous machinery, things like that."
Yeah, yeah. Where do you see the industry evolving to? Going
Going
into
all
all
this.
this to say, where do you see that industry going? I mean, I know that we're seeing a huge growth here in the upstate. So where do you see it going? I mean, obviously, we're both in the automation space, and we definitely see growth coming. It's a little slow growth, obviously, but they say we're seeing it. They say, and it's exciting, say to see for the future. Obviously, a lot of companies are looking at this, not just to say Wauseon or R&E, but where do you see it, say, in your eyes?
Yeah, I feel like eh, like looking at the entire context of industry, right? From the first, the steam engine to the assembly line, these different industrial revolutions that have happened, and the great history in the United States of American industry, a strong history. Um, a lot of that DNA, really pumps from the that Detroit area, from the automotive industry, which is the big,
Yeah.
and that's your home, that's your home turf.
Yeah, it does.
So the early adopters of automation. And so, the perspective I can add is only a glimpse of that, right? And that entire timeline, it's like the entire existence of humanity is like the perspective we have of just today in our lifetimes. But what I can say is trying to be a student of that history and trying to be a student of where we are today. I hear and see a lot of other much more well-informed and expert opinions on where we're at. And I heard a great a leader in the robot space. I've had a brief conversation with recently, and he highlighted where we're at in today in the industrial robot space, where the history and the legacy is around big caged systems with industrial robots that can move really fast and move heavy payloads. And there's been this sort of renaissance of collaborative applications. You have the
Yes.
collaborative robots or cobots and fenceless applications, and a lot more customers wanting more, right? Wanting more features for the spend and for the technology. And this person said, regardless of where we are today, right in this moment, um, that the future is for automation to basically just be like humanoid robots that just do what humans can do.
Mhm. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it is.
so yeah, so because the idea of what any machinery in a factory is trying to do is trying to replace manual labor and manual effort. To say, 100 years ago, you would have had humans and mules doing this work, and anytime we can put a piece of metal to do it, um, that's safer, that we're going to produce more and more consistent products. So now where we're at after the dot-com era and the explosion in software technology, we're we're in sort of a long tailwind of machinery and then really intelligent software combining, and it's like a tidal wave of all this stuff. So now you have, along with the collaborative robots, you have really amazing vision systems, and
All the
able to
AI.
do.
I just had a
Yeah, and
conversation on that,
you
huge conversation. That was awesome. It was a good one. AI is coming.
totally. Yeah, and I'm excited for that episode for whenever you release it,
Yeah.
because I want to learn too. So I guess the little perspective I can offer, and just trying to be a sponge of my own environment, is that the technology is going to keep getting better. It's going to get more flexible, because that's what people really want. The rigid automation, like, hey, we set up an assembly line and it does that same thing over and over, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times. That has its place in industry. But you're also finding the rest of industry that says, hey, I've got people in my shop right now. They're moving around. They're doing different tasks. They're changing over equipment to, we're setting it up to do this part for a few hours, and then we're going to set it up to do a different part in the next few hours. So my guess is you're going to continue to see the technology providers, continue to look for ways to insert themselves in that equation and solve those problems.
Yeah,
And
they're gonna
and then I just
continue to
hope to
advance.
ride that tidal wave with it.
Yeah, 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 definitely. It's gonna continue to advance, and I mean, it'll just continue to grow, and we'll probably start seeing more of the AI, more of the collaborative. I mean, we just seen that at Modex, to say, a month ago, right? They say
Yeah.
me as well. They say going through, walking through. It was a good conference to go to. So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely see that. And um, what advice would you give to like other professionals and businesses considering automation as part of their strategy? Like, what would you say to them? And, obviously, if they're coming to you asking, hey, we want to implement automation, or say, I guess a young professional, let's say out of college, even, and say, what would you give advice to them? And say, to say, hey, I want to get into the automation space. How would I start there? I know you're an advocate of, hey, learning and continuing and, absorbing everything like a sponge. Me too. But yeah,
Yeah.
say, what would you do there?
Yeah, well, I guess to take it in order, or in reverse order,
Mm,
because that maybe is the easier one, is for any young person looking to get into industry and to get into automation and robotics, in the manufacturing space. I would highly encourage them to do it. Right, it wasn't something I was exposed to until later in my professional life, and so now I'm in a situation where I'm like, man, I wish I would have known about this sooner. Right, and I go to, whether it's some of these industry trade shows and I see the middle school and high school kids showing up, or the different robotic events and competitions on the weekend, see young people participating in it. I think that's awesome. And a lot of these organizations, professional organizations, that try and pull those kids into the real life scenarios as well. Let's get them out on the manufacturing floor to different R&D environments. And so what I would say to a young person who maybe hasn't been exposed to it you know, is look into it, man. It's an
mm,
exciting place to be in. It's where all of these exciting worlds converge. The physical universe, where we need to move stuff around and make stuff. And Elon Musk said it. Elon Musk said that
mm,
manufacturing is the hardest part of the process. He said,
yes.
product design gets glorified to design the beautiful product, whatever it is, but scaling up and reaching a mass level of producing something, that's the really hard part of the equation. So what I would say is, just first consider this as a place to spend your time professionally. Like, I would encourage them to do that. And once you make that decision, then it's easy, right? Seek out the professional conferences that are going on. They're happening all the time, and they're in every region, so there's no excuse. Seek out the professional societies. You and I are both members of the Society for Manufacturing Engineers,
Yes.
so
SME
those are
for
great
anybody that
resources.
doesn't know.
Exactly. Yeah, SME is the acronym, so those are great resources as well. There's resources on educational campuses, whether it's a college, a technical college, or even these high school and middle schools. Right here in the Upstate, and we have a lot of that. So I just say seek it out. And all of us millennials and younger, we're all living in a digital era. So if it's not in your local community, get online, get on YouTube. There's a lot of great online courses to start learning about the work that you and I are both involved in. So there's not a lack of information out there. It's just I would encourage someone that it's a great, exciting space to be in. So get involved. And for the first question around, hey, if there's a customer out there thinking, hey, we have this project or we have a process, maybe a pain point, and we're thinking about automating it. Um, the first thing that comes to mind is just to say, like, you're not alone, right? Like, don't
Mm,
feel like you have to solve this problem alone. There's so many, and we approach a lot of these problems as a team sport, right? We collaborate with our technology vendors, and we use all of our resources in house um, to start to work on solving the problem. So, if uh, if you have a pain point in your factory and you're thinking, man, I think if we just threw a robot at this, or if we had a little bit of automation here, that would solve our problem, is pick up the phone, like put out,
yeah.
fill out an
Call
inquiry
you,
form somewhere.
right? Call
Sure, yeah,
you.
call it. Of course. Yeah, of course. We'd love to be there, but
Yeah,
just don't feel like you have to solve the problem on your own. And also we exist to make you look good, right? So there's everyone is also a node in their own ecosystem within their company. So we want to come in and know, okay, how do we make you look good? How do we make this a win for you within your current position? So just a lot's possible. There's a lot of great technology out there, and even the people who've been in this for decades, and I talk to them, they're constantly being exposed to new technology. So just because you looked into a problem a couple of years ago and you thought, nah, I didn't really see anything I liked, didn't really find any technology that I felt like solved my problem. It may be a different landscape today. So don't lose the hope that there's solutions out there for you, because there very likely are, and tap into the resources that are out there. Great company like yourself, Jordan, and then the other technology vendors that we collaborate with. Because people are here to help. That
y
we're all in this to make American manufacturing better, right?
yes,
To
yes,
to
we are.
increase the standard of living. That's where an economy is prosperous when it has a strong industrial backbone. So that's why I'm in this, and that's why many, many other people are. So we're here to help you guys, make your job easier or do your job better in any way that we can.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Well, Josh, I appreciate you taking your time and say to, come on Tech Talk with R&E Automated. Do you have anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners here? And can you please give us where they can reach you if they need, some automation machinery or, hey, just some advice?
Yeah, the regular places, the regular touch points. My email is jdiaz@wauseonmachine.com. So maybe that can go in the show notes because there's some tricky words in there.
Yeah,
But I'm active on LinkedIn, so it's just I'm Josh Diaz on LinkedIn in Greenville, South Carolina. And then certainly our company forms. If you fill out an inquiry form, someone within our big team will be there to help you guys. And just the only other thing I would add, Jordan, is I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing for the upstate of South Carolina, but also for the industry as a whole, because I know you guys get all over the country,
yeah.
and creating a platform like this to have talk or around different technology and the different happenings in our industry, because it's an exciting place. And just again appreciate what you're doing and hope that people get a lot of out of whether it's this or other conversations and other projects that you're working on, because you're a very authentic guy who's just, I can tell, wants to continue to improve people's access to knowledge and access to resources. So
Oh,
that would
yeah.
be my only other advice, is just stay close to Jordan, follow him on LinkedIn, and I'm sure you'll benefit, because I know I have in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that, Josh. I say it's always good connecting people. I like, I love doing that. I do it every week, I think, and I think you and I kind of very similar in that. It's been a wild ride, but it's been going good, so I'm enjoying it. But yeah, I say everybody, I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I appreciate it. I say, but I'm signing off. Thank you.